Welcome to Sufi Magic. In the name of Allah, most gracious and most merciful. This chapter is about something we all know. We can see it, we can touch it, and this is what we are made of, the earth. But what exactly is earth? The Urdu word zameen is actually a Persian word, meaning a solid surface which can be stood upon. But zameen is actually a very simple word of daily use, the dry land what we're standing upon, stretching thousands of miles beneath us. The true definition is much more extensive than that. In technical terms, it is a combination of some minerals, gases and some liquids, and something without which I and you would not be here, the compounds that sustain life, and they are called organic matter. I will tell you more about the organic matter, but before that, I want to tell you some of the things about Earth which are not usually discussed. There are many names for land in global languages, but there is one name, variation of which you will see almost in every language, and that word is the Arabic word al-ard, and its several variations, be it the English word earth, or erd in German, or ard in Dutch, jord in Norwegian, erd in Yiddish, or Jordan in Danish language. All the ancient language share almost the same word for earth, with a similar definition. Any part that is different from air and water and can be walked upon is called earth, is land. But there is another question, that how far the earth is spread out? Pakistan, Saudi, India, America, Australia, England. Is that all? When Allah swears by the earth and its expansion, does Allah swear by these large and small and more or less 195 countries? The earth I and you are living upon, its 90% rocks, are made of basalt. Basalt is actually a stony element, just like granite or marble. If 90% of the earth is basalt, then it is logical to assume that basalt is another name for earth. I'm more than sure all of you must have seen the full moon. But have you ever considered what are those black spots? These black spots are called lunar moria, and these are vast plains of basalt, the same basalt of our earth. Technically, the land of moon is also a part of earth. I will give you another example. From Pakistan, you can see a very bright star at the time of dawn and dusk, which is not actually a star, but it is a planet called Venus. In the 70s and 80s, Russia sent 5 Venera missions to its surface, and they observed dozens of kilometers thick layers of clouds covering the surface of Venus, which is 80% made with basalt, the same basalt as our Earth, which means technically Venus is also a part of Earth, an Earth covered with dense clouds. Mars, where we have sent more than 50 missions as of now, is also made of basalt just like our Earth. And the only difference between us is water and organic matter. Our Earth is plentiful in both, whereas Mars is not. You must have heard of Jupiter as well, the largest and perhaps most beautiful planet of our solar system, and its surface always covered with storms. Our night is lit by one moon, whereas a typical night at Jupiter is lit with 79 moons, all of which are by definition parts of Earth. Let me take you out of our solar system. So far, 4,984 such systems and planets have been discovered that are technically part of Earth. These planets have been catalogued and named, and a further 6,590 systems and planets are visible which could be made of same Earth, but have not yet been catalogued and named. Some parts of Earth is much smaller than us, and some parts are much similar to us. In fact, if you remember that in 2014, a planet named Kepler 186f was discovered, almost like our very own Earth, made of same Earth, but some parts of Earth are terrifyingly larger than ours. For example, HD 100,546, a part of Earth that is almost as big as our Sun. The discoveries about other parts of Earth started in the year 1990, but since then, every 27 months, the numbers of these discoveries are doubling. God knows how far Earth is actually stretched out and expanded. Do you realize now how powerful was it to swear by the Earth and its expansion? Whenever something is going into Earth or coming out of it or spreading onto it, that Earth can be anywhere. in this entire universe. This was the earth that was separated from skies according to Surah Anbiya, which took a form and shape before the skies, created before the skies according to Surah Baqarah, created in 2 days according to Surah Hameen Sajda, then expanded in all directions according to Surah Naziyat, then enforced with mountains atop its surface according to Surah Hameen Sajda, mountains that exist atop the entire earth, in all the parts of earth. In fact, the surface of Mars has much larger mountains compared to ours. For example, Mount Olympus on the surface of Mars, compared to our largest mountain, the Mount Everest. Mount Olympus is twice the size. According to Hameen al-Sajda, the earth is blessed with bounties for its dwellers. Bounties for us are definitely present in our earth, and I have a firm belief that wherever this earth is expanded, it carries resources within it for its dwellers, according to their own unique needs. For example, one of the resources in our earth is the one that drives our daily business, 130,000 million tons natural gas and 16 trillion barrel crude oil is present in our earth right now as a resource. Saturn's moon Titan holds entire oceans on its surface. Of these two resources, 142 million carat diamonds in our earth, for which there is still a war going on in Congo and Central Africa. Cancri 55 holds so much of it that its entire outer surface is covered with diamonds, and some parts of the earth hold things so strange that science had to think of new names and labels for them. It makes one thing clear: our tiny planet is not entire Earth. It is just a part of Earth, which is spread out into the entire universe. And creation and spreading of the Earth happened in 4 days according to Surah Hameen al-Sajda. What was the nature of those days? Were those 24 hours days? I have already explained about the strangeness of time in the first chapter, but the expansion of Earth starts from our planet and goes to those darkest and most remote places of this universe that no one knows of. And now I understand that the creation of the sky in its magnificence is matched only by the creation of Earth in its greatness. Earth is not just about this planet. It is spread out everywhere in this universe. But why? That is a very good question. That why the Earth was spread out like this? To find the answer to this question, I'm going to present you my study about this earth, and about its expansion, and about its dwellers, with 8 verses from Quran. Surah Rahman. This earth was spread out for all the living beings. But which living beings? Surah Luqman. Those living beings are of many kinds. Surah An'am. Those living beings are of groups and categories, just like us. Surah Yasin. Those living beings are created in pairs, just like us. Besides those living beings, there are pair of things which we don't even know. Surah Nahl. Those living beings are of different shapes and colors. Surah Hameen Sajda. Suitable food and resources for those living beings are there in the earth where they live. Surah Yasin. That food is also in pairs blooming out of that earth. And according to Surah Hud, the location of those resources, the way those resources reach to those living beings, and where are they located and kept. This entire responsibility is with the only one who created this earth and its dwellers, the Almighty Allah. Surah Shura. The expansion and distribution of those living beings over entire earth is one of the signs of Allah. Surah Al-Imran. All of the dwellers of earth, willingly or unwillingly, are under the rule of Allah. In Surah Fatiha, it is mentioned twice that we and all the dwellers of earth, either they live in our earth or a distant part of earth, they are for Allah. Surah Hashar and Surah Hadid. All of the dwellers of earth are praising Allah's holiness. And according to Surah Isra, we cannot understand the praise of those living beings. Perhaps now you can comprehend the greatness of the concept of earth. It is not about our small planet. Allah knows how far this earth has spread out and who lives in those distant parts, and how many are those, because according to Surah Mudathir, no one knows the number of forces of Allah. According to Surah Nahl, He creates things which we do not even know of. But according to Surah Shura, Allah can bring them together. whenever He wants. If you have listened carefully so far, what other evidence do you need to understand that besides humans, there are many other alien creations living on Earth? It is only about understanding the concept of Earth. Whatever have I told you so far is from the verses of Quran. All the alien beings living on different parts of Earth are Allah's creation, whether it be this part of Earth where we live or a creature living on a distant part of Earth in deep space, which is unknown to us, and all of them are willingly or unwillingly under the command of Allah. They praise to Allah too, but we cannot understand their praise. But how can we understand? Allah knows what kind of language do they speak in those distant parts of space, and if Allah wills, He can bring these creations together. And if I be honest, my research tells me that it will eventually happen. A creature of some unknown Earth will come to us, which we have not seen yet. But since that is not the subject of this chapter, I will not go into details of it. The subject of this chapter is a certain part of Earth, which we know of as planet Earth, our home, our world, our little blue planet, the blue marble. Our world started some 4.5 billion years ago. We know this because so far, we have not discovered an element older than this. They zircon crystals discovered from Australia, the oldest element on Earth. But all those 4.5 billion years ago, this Earth was not blue at all. It was not even recognizable because it was being bombarded with massive meteorites. Every few years, a few 100 kilometers wide meteorite would hit the Earth, killing it. An uninhabited, scary and a sterile planet. Nothing could grow here. But then a miracle occurred. Surah Hadid revives this Earth after its death, and we have explained our signs so you understand. This Earth was given life after one of the largest meteorite hitting the Earth. After the collision, gases trapped inside the Earth were released and they enveloped the Earth in the form of a smoke. This smoke contained water vapors besides gases, and something amazing happened. The planet started to cool down. Its atmosphere started to develop. Water vapors inside the smoke started to rain like water, and something happened which is mentioned in Surah Null, Surah Ankabut and Surah Yasir. Allah is the one who descended water and whatever He wished from the sky and revived the Earth after it was dead. This rain formed the oceans, and technically those oceans should have froze because our sun back then was not like the sun today. It too was a newborn star whose brightness and heat was 30% less than today, but still our oceans did not freeze, which is miraculous. And to me the reason is given in 61st verse of Surah Naml, that Allah stabilized the earth. He gave it stability, so He gave the earth running waters. He created mountains. He placed a barrier between the two oceans. Allah knows better. What kind of barriers were those that kept the oceans from freezing? They stayed running waters, and it was necessary for these waters to remain liquid because they were going to give birth to life. According to Surah Anbiya, every living thing is created from water, and these waters were going to cherish life. But what exactly is life? There are 123 different definitions of life right now. More than 100 definitions. You might be surprised to hear, but there is no single definition of life. But still, one of the accepted definitions of life is anything that can perform these three tasks will be considered alive. First task is that its body must perform some kind of chemical reaction within, called metabolism. The second task is that its body must be able to repair itself in some way. And the third task is that its body must be able to replicate itself, meaning it can reproduce. If I be honest, we are still unable to decide what is life, or even what do we know of life, how many kinds it has, how many forms it takes. We only know of one kind, the earth life, and this is the reason why we call it the life as we know it. How did the life come into being for the first time? Nobody really knows. Dozens of models have been presented, but not a single one is consented upon. Thousands of experiments have been conducted in libraries, but nobody has created life so far, and they will never be able to. because creation of life from waters was a miracle, and this miracle has been attributed to only one name in Surah Rum. Only Allah brings alive out of the unliving. He is the one who revives the earth after its death. No one can create life except Allah. Now how did the living came out of the unliving? The oldest evidences are in Canada. 3.75 billion years old fossils of algae, and this algae is technically a living organism, and the similar fossils are found in Australia, which are called microbial mat. The interesting thing is that Australia and Canada are two extreme corners of the world, and it is very important because it tells that creation of life was happening everywhere. At the same time, beneath the oceans, the elements that form life are called the organic matter, but let me tell you something very interesting, that a tiny part, an amino acid of this organic matter called glycine, was also discovered on a comet called Wild 2 in the year 2009. Now, which distant part of Earth did that comet bring the amino acid from? No one really knows, but it proves something though, that even right now, somewhere in the remote and distant parts of the universe, on some part of Earth, life is forming, but that early life was far different than the life we know today. In fact, until 3.5 billion years ago, it was an unrecognizable form of life, tiny microbial and microscopic organisms. But then two severe winters fell and changed everything. Life born after this winter was completely different, a larger form of life. It had muscles, it had nerve cells, but the most important part was the plant life. Why did it happen? No one really knows. We only know that 540 million years ago, a new world was developed, a new realm. At this point, I remember the 61st verse of Surah Waqi'ah, that it is not impossible for us to replace you with someone like you and create you in a realm that you do not know. Allah is truly able for that. And this is what we are seeing with our eyes. It has already happened once, 540 million years ago. The second life compared to the first one was completely different. The first life was algae, bacteria, and some other microbial organisms. But second life, animal with skeletal system, vertebrates, animals with jaws, aquatic animals, land animals. Even the first forms of birds were developed. The first insects were developed, known as trilobites. Comparing such different forms of life reminds me of Surah Ankabut's 20th verse, that go and see into the earth, that how Allah created the first time, similarly He will create the second time, and He is all-powerful. It was the second life, whence dinosaurs came from, giant serpents like Titanoboa, frightening-looking megatherium sloths, megalodon sharks, a horrific creature called Basilosaurus that ruled the deep oceans, Quetzal dinosaurs that could fly, scary-looking terror birds. But none of these strange animals is alive today. In fact, 90% of them have gone extinct today. But why? In 128th verse of Surah Taha, there is a very important word, Qurun. A generic meaning for this word is a place of dwelling, which is correct. But this word Qurun has 4 more meanings, and one of which is era, eons, centuries, or a long period of time. We even use this word in Urdu as Quruniula or Quruniwasta, meaning the beginning period or the Middle Ages. And with this meaning in your mind, look at this verse of Surah Taha, that we have destroyed long periods of time before them, in whose dwellings they wander around. There are many signs in them. In last 540 million years, it has happened 5 times that the entire eons of these animals and their dwellings got destroyed and extincted, known today as 5 mass extinctions. Sometimes 250 million years ago, 96% of the life on Earth was extincted, bringing an end to their eon. Sometimes 65 million years ago, 75% of the life on Earth got destroyed, bringing an end to another eon. All the larger and fierce animals, including dinosaurs, were extinct, and only those who remained underground survived. A small miracle, but then something was developed on the surface of Earth that never developed before, and the mention of creation of this thing is there in Surah Allah. with the praise to Allah, that praise your exalted Lord who created, who set a destiny and then showed the path, the supreme God who created fresh grass. What do you know about grass? It was actually grass that changed the entire physiology of life on Earth. If the grass hadn't developed, the Earth would have still been roamed by dinosaurs. But after the grass was developed, the age of carnivores ended, and tiny animals hiding underground came to the surface. The abundance of grass caused bigger bodies and eventually developed the first mammals. Those plants and trees started to grow, which we are used to of seeing today, eventually creating the life as we know it. But there is a very mysterious verse about Earth in Surah Al-Alaq, that Allah is the one who created 7 skies and the earth similar to them, and his rule applies everywhere in between them. This is the verse which proves the existence of multiple and unique earths, and the number of these earths is taken from a hadith of Prophet Muhammad that anyone who confiscated a cubit of a land, he shall be buried to the depths of 7 earths, or a collar of 7 earths will be hung around his neck. And this hadith clearly speaks of 7 earths. And how do these 7 earths look like? Perhaps no one is able to answer that, because we only know on earth, just as we know only one kind of life. The earth we know is spread far out in the universe, like the skies are greatly expanded. But where are these 7 earths? A similar question was asked by a Roman emperor. The Roman Empire in the time of Prophet, which was technically Byzantine Empire, and its emperor was called Heraclius, referred to as Hercule in Arabic or Urdu. He wrote a letter to the Prophet in which he actually raised an objection, that you invite me to a heaven which is equal to earth and sky in its great size. Logically, that leaves no space for the hellfire. The Prophet replied to his objection that glory be to Allah. Logically, where does the night go when the day comes? Upon this answer, the Jews in Heraclius's court fell silent, but then started to argue that you must have learned this answer from Torah, Jewish book. At this point, I want to mention Ibn Abbas, that he was once such companion that, about whom there is a very important hadith. Prophet once had embraced Ibn Abbas with his heart and prayed that, O Allah, bless Ibn Abbas with wisdom and the knowledge of Quran. Prophet Muhammad had especially prayed for Ibn Abbas's Quranic knowledge. Much later, a man asked Ibn Abbas about the nature of 7 earths, and Ibn Abbas replied that if I explain its nature to you, you will not believe it, and disbelieving means denouncing it. Imam Riki quotes Ibn Abbas in his book called Respected Names and Attributes, that every earth has a prophet like your prophet, has Adam like your Adam, has Noah like your Noah, has Abraham like your Abraham, has Jesus like your Jesus, and keep this in your mind, that he was such a companion whose knowledge was prayed for by Prophet himself. If I be honest, the concept of 7 earths is so vast that we may never fully be able to completely understand it. We have not yet fully understood even our own earth, let alone the earth. We have not been able to fully explore our little blue planet. Even today, 65% of our planet is unexplored, most of which is hidden under the ocean. But as I had told you in the first chapter about skies, that composition of each sky is unique, meaning some sky is made of water, another made of gold, and another made with the kind of light which we cannot understand. Similarly, the composition of each earth would also be different, a completely different earth than ours, because this verse speaks about earths just like the skies. Who knows what materials those earths are made of? I will give you an example. Abdullah bin Abi Jr., an 8th century Iraqi scholar, he says, there is an earth to the west. It glows with its brightness. There live a creature of Allah who has never disobeyed him even for a moment. People asked that, do they have the devils? He replied, they are not aware of the entity called the devil. People asked with surprise, are they humans? He replied, they are not even aware of Adam's creation. One can argue about the chain of this report, but think about it for a second. Is it really impossible? One of the attributes of Allah is Khalik, mentioned in Quran at least 7 times, but there is a similar attribute of Allah in Surah Hijr called Khalaq. In Arabic language, Khalik and Khalaq have different meanings. Khalik means someone who creates, but Khalaq means someone who originates the creation. He who created something for first time, and he who is constantly creating, and the creation of skies and earths is much greater than the creation of man. Someone who creates such great creations, is it difficult for him to create another living creature? The creation of 7 skies and 7 earths on such a grand scale, Allah has sworn by the both, and all those skies and earths and whatever is in between them, is like a ring in a desert, compared to the throne of God, and the throne is like a small ring in a desert compared to the chair of God. These are such grand scales that neither can I explain them, nor can you understand them. But imagining such grandeur makes one thing crystal clear: Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest.